Hello everyone, welcome back to Physics Train. That is the new name of the channel. I want to say thank you to all our subscribers and the ones who have liked the video. Thank you for your love and support. This is a brand new channel and it is starting to grow. We have got a few subscribers now, and thank you for spending your time on the previous video, and I look forward to receiving the same love and support and more for this video. So subscribe if you have not, and press the bell icon beside it, and like the video if you think it's worth your time. So let's start. So previously we had discussed about free and damped vibrations. So today we are going to study about forced vibrations and what makes it different. So in case of forced vibrations, what happens is that we are the ones who are putting the force on bad drawing. So we are the ones who are putting the force on the bob. So we are putting in an external force. So things get interesting here. So as you are putting an external force, and this force is harmonic. So we are still in the domain of SHM, simple harmonic motion. So what happens is that the equation of motion for this bob, we can write that as mx double dot, this is our basic force, plus bx dot, the damping factor, plus kx, this is our restoring force, is equal to not 0 like how we had for the damping equation. It is not 0. Instead it will be equal to, let's make it more like x, yeah. So instead it will be equal to some f naught cosine omega t, let's say, sinusoidal force, harmonic. So now we know the motion is periodic, right? The bob moves a certain angle on this side and then on the other side, but now, like in the case of damped, this angle on either side was gradually decreasing and finally ceased to 0, and for the free vibration case the angle was equal all through and through, and the oscillations continued forever, the to and fro oscillations. Here this angle on either side, it can increase or decrease. It depends all on the driving force frequency, that is the frequency of this external force that we are applying, that is our omega. This is our driving force frequency, and this is a very important part of our solution. This will define how our bob oscillates and the angles that it will make on either side of its mean position. We know obviously this is our mean position. So now moving on with our solution, let's erase all these. Now first let's get rid of the masses, and we are making this x double dot plus 2 gamma. We all know why the 2 gamma. If you don't know and if you can't recollect why the 2 gamma, please go and watch the previous video, you'll get a context. So plus omega naught square x, omega naught is root under k by m here, is equal to f naught by m cosine omega t. So f naught here was the driving force amplitude, and f naught by m is the driving acceleration amplitude. We are all now in the terms of acceleration in this equation. Now this equation does not seem so fun, so to make it quite worth it, and why I'll churn this into a different solution, because first let's get over this. We know that z is equal to x plus iy. We are churning into the complex variables here, and why I'll do that I'll tell you shortly. So similarly from here we also know in the Euler's form e to the power I theta is cosine theta plus I sine theta. So this equation, this number 1, this equation 1 can be written as, in terms of z double dot plus 2 gamma z dot plus omega naught square z is equal to f naught by m, and here instead of cosine omega t or this cosine theta here, we will go to this new e to the power I omega t here. This theta now is omega t in this context. So this is the equation that we are going to work with. Now, why did I change this equation? So see, equations of this type where you don't have a simple 0 on the right hand side, the solution to these equations, let's say the z of t, comes in two parts: the complementary function and the particular integral. Now what does this part physically mean? The complementary function, as I had told you in the previous video as well, it is basically the solution when the right hand side is 0. That is basically again returning to the damping solution, the solution for the damping oscillations. So we have already solved for this part, and this part is also known as the transient state part. So this is the transient state. Represents the transient state part. So what happens is that during this transient period, as I had told you, in case of the damped vibrations, this transient state does not last long. So if t naught is the time till which the transient state lasts, t naught is very small. It's very small. So ultimately what happens is that after a very small time, this part becomes 0 after short time. And we are left with the particular integral. This is the main part of our solution. And if you have to add on the complementary function and make this brand new solution, so we already knew the complementary function part. We are going to write it as ZCF, let's say, and we had it like a to the it was not z, I'm sorry, we did not take complex variables earlier on. It was x here, and we had it like a to the power minus gamma t cosine omega prime t minus phi double prime, where our omega prime was root under omega square minus gamma square. Now this particular integral part, this part is known as the steady state. So in steady state, our exciting force, which is basically our external force, this is the force that excites our bob in this case. It is harmonic, and we had already said that we are considering this external force as harmonic. This f external, which is equal to our f naught cosine omega t. So the steady state vibration takes place at the frequency of this excitation, or the frequency of our external driving force, which is our omega. This take a different color, this. So now the steady state is something, as you can say by the name, steady state is something that you attain after t naught, after a short time t naught. So this stays, the particular integral solution stays. So how to solve for this particular integral? Now the solution of this particular integral part is always of the form of the external force. or our excitation. Here the excitation is our external force on the bob. So the form of the exciting part, so let's name this part as ZPI, just to get a hold that this is the particular integral part. So this will be, the ZPI will be of the form of e to the power I omega t. So we can take our answers or trial solution, this is the coolest method, our trial solution as, let ZPI t, I'll get rid of pi here and just write z of t is equal to sum a e to the power I omega t. So because we don't have a 0 on the right hand side, you cannot just take any form for your trial solution. You have to take particularly the form that is there on the right hand side. So we are taking a to the power I omega t as our trial solution. So I hope you can view the equation, the main equation which are bordered on in red. This is equation 2. So now while solving this equation, we just need to have z dot as it's pretty simple, I omega a e to the power I omega t. Our z double dot as, see the I omega again comes down over here, so you have I square omega, and we know that I is equal to root under minus 1, so I square is equal to minus 1. So this becomes minus omega square a e to the power I omega t. So now things get very much simple. We put this and this in equation 2. In equation 2. So when you put those in equation 2, what we are left with is a common, you have minus omega square plus 2 gamma I omega plus omega naught square e to the power I omega t is equal to f naught by m e to the power I omega t. Now comes the interesting part. So this cuts off. So we can say this a is nothing but f naught by m omega naught square minus omega square plus 2 gamma omega, and we have a I front here. So look at this part particularly. Look at this part. Doesn't this look like a complex number where this is the real part and this is the imaginary part? X plus I y. So let's take this to be some, let's say I of omega. It's a function of omega because our omega naught is a constant over here, and also gamma is a constant for a particular experiment. So the I will depend on the only variable omega here. So we can write that I of omega is equal to omega naught square minus omega square plus I 2 gamma omega. So this is the x part and this is the y part. So from here we can say that mod of I of omega, just like how you know mod of z is root under x square plus y square, similarly mod of I of omega is root under omega square minus omega square whole square plus 4 gamma square omega square. So this becomes our mod of I of omega. And why I found this mod of I of omega? Because we know any complex function, let's just write it with z here, that z can be written as mod of z e to the power I theta. You may have seen this form as r e to the power I theta, but r is nothing but mod of z. So here mod of I, this I of omega is mod of I of omega e to the power some I phi, let's say a new angle, no surprise. So this becomes naturally root under omega squared minus, sorry, omega naught squared minus omega squared whole square plus 4 gamma squared omega square e to the power I. Now this phi is the argument of this complex variable I of omega, so we know that in this case the theta is argument of z, that is basically tan inverse y by x. So here in this case phi, this phi over here will be tan inverse, our y is 2 gamma omega, and you have the x as omega naught square minus omega square. So the phi is here. The blue is just getting on the eyes. All right, so we have defined our I of omega in this manner. So why am I defining this in this manner? We had found out our A over here, so naturally, as we know, our z of t is a e to the power I omega t. We can write this, we already have found out our A, we can just substitute it here, f naught by m, and in place of this I of omega we'll write mod of I of omega e to the power I phi. So mod of I of omega is this part and e to the power I phi. So we'll substitute this in place of I of omega. The root under omega naught square minus omega square whole square plus 4 gamma square omega square e to the power I phi. I'm not comfortable writing this tan inverse, this whole part over here, so I'm just writing phi, and we have here e to the power omega t here. So it reduces to f naught by m root under omega naught square minus omega square whole square plus 4 gamma square omega square e to the power I omega t minus phi. Looks good now. So this is our solution for z of t. We wanted this, but not exactly this. We wanted x of t. So x of t, as you know, z of t is in of this form, e to the power omega t minus phi. So we know e to the power I theta is cosine theta plus I sin theta. So x of t is just the real part of z of t. It's the real part of e to the power I theta. So the real part of z is here. So we can write this as f naught by m omega naught square minus omega square whole square plus 4 gamma square omega square cosine omega t minus phi. Here we have the particular integral solution. Let's just add on the pi now to our solution, and we know that if we write the whole solution x of t as x cf, the complementary function part, plus x pi, the particular integral part, what we have is some k e to the power minus gamma t cosine omega prime t minus phi double prime plus f naught by m by root under omega naught squared minus omega squared whole square plus 4 gamma squared omega square cosine omega t minus phi, where phi is nothing but tan inverse 2 gamma omega divided by omega naught square minus omega square, and the omega prime over here was from the previous video we know, omega naught square minus gamma square. So this makes up the whole solution. For forced oscillation. Now this is just the solution. There are a lot of cases where we will compare this omega with omega naught, and like these are the cases, like omega is very greater than omega naught, or omega is comparable to omega naught, or omega is very less than omega naught. So these are very different cases, and you can see different responses here. You can see different responses in phi, this is the first part, and also different responses in your x of t. So, and also we see a very interesting relation with the velocity, and there are two very different aspects here: the velocity amplitude, the velocity resonance, which gives the velocity amplitude, and the amplitude resonance. Both of these depend on how the driving force is dependent on the or how the driving frequency is dependent on the natural frequency, of like basically on these three conditions over here. So we will do all of this later on. The next video will be on some specific features of damped oscillations. That will be the logarithmic decrement of the damped oscillations, and as well as these properties of the forced vibrations over here. So it will mostly be on the properties, and also some cool features about how energy varies with the velocity. So that will be and it's we know it will be proportional to v square, you have that idea, but how exactly, it's pretty cool. And also the average and instantaneous power and everything. So meet you all in the next video, and I hope you have liked this content, and please like if you find it worth your time. Thank you.